Hello, my name is Khan Bayoud. I'm with ResistTV, and today we are going to cover an injustice that's not getting much coverage in the prisons and jails across the United States of America. This issue is the high rates that phone companies charge prisoners and their families, which is an issue that affects not only the prisoners themselves, but their families, their broader communities, and the American society at large. Today with us is Andrew Schwartzman, who's going to cover this issue for us and give us some explanation on what's exactly happening. Mr. Schwartzman is a public interest advocate with the Institute for Public Representation at Georgetown's University Law Center. Mr. Schwartzman, thank you for being with us today.
It's my pleasure.
Could you please tell us who you represent on this issue and what are their concerns with the high prison phone rates and fees?
I'm part of a team of people who've been representing a group of prisoners and their families and prison rights advocates, which we collectively refer to as the right petitioners, because when the litigation started 15 years ago, the lead petitioner was a woman named Martha Wright, who was concerned because it was costing so much to talk to her grandson, who was imprisoned. She has since died. Her grandson is out of prison and is now leading the organization. But we still call the group the right petitioners.
Okay. Is it true that there were instances where some families would tell you that we sometimes have to choose between putting food on the table or talking to our beloved ones in the prison?
Yes. Family contact is really essential, both for the benefit of the people who are incarcerated as well as for their families. The recidivism rate of people who are in touch with their families is much lower, and the children of incarcerated individuals fare much better in society if they're in contact with their father or mother. So families place a very high premium on those contacts, and in many cases the expenses force them to forego other important expenditures.
Can you please tell us why it has been so hard to bring justice to these families and correct this problem?
It's been very difficult to deal with this issue because the correctional facilities and many, but not all, of the states and localities have been using prison phone rates as a source of profits and revenue. In many jurisdictions, a large proportion, up to 90% of the revenue that is paid for these phone calls is kicked back to the prison authorities in the form of what they call site commissions. So the states, as well as the phone companies, have an interest in having very high rates.
Are you saying that some states are getting kickbacks? I mean, they're profiting from the whole operation?
Yes, it varies. Some states have enacted reforms. They've prohibited these so-called site commissions, and they've mandated reasonable rates, 5 cents a minute in New Mexico, for example. Other states have not, and the rates can be very, very expensive.
Great. Some states have worked toward policies to cap these rates. Can you tell us what the impact and results and consequences of these policies?
It's interesting. It turns out that when the prison phone companies complained that if the rates were capped, they would suffer financial loss, which is one of the basis of their court appeals. It turns out that when you lower the rates, the call volume, the number of calls, increases tremendously because people can now afford calls, and the net revenue to the prison phone companies remains about the same.
So essentially, once the rates were capped, there was much more easier access for prisoners to speak to their beloved ones, which increased the total rate of access to communication and therefore generating more profit.
It will generate more revenue anyway. I can't speak to the profit.
Okay, oh, great. Thanks for clarifying that. What do you think is the impact of lower rate and easier access to communications for prisoners and their families?
Well, explained, there's manifest benefit to the incarcerated individuals, to their children, their loved ones, also their lawyers, in being able to communicate, and they all benefit from it, and so therefore society as a whole benefits tremendously.
Great. What do you think is what's the next thing to do for this issue at the state and at the federal level?
Well, the Federal Communications Commission adopted interim rates for interstate calls, that is, calls between long-distance calls from one state to another, which have greatly reduced the cost of those calls. It has also tried to adopt permanent lower rates for both interstate calls and intrastate calls, that is, calls within a particular state. These have been blocked from going into effect until the court appeals are over. The oral argument on the appeals of the FCC decision were held on February 6th, and if the court rules favorably, I would expect that new, much lower rates would go into effect later in the year.
So, in your opinion, do you think there is some hope for these prisoners and their families that the situation might improve?
Well, there is hope, depending on the outcome of this case, for prisoners throughout the country. In addition, several states have sought to reform the system and to impose lower rates than even what the Federal Communications Commission is adopting nationally. I've mentioned New Mexico, New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Alabama have also put in lower rate schemes. So there is, I think, now and going to be activity in a number of states to try to improve the situation even more.
Great. Great. That's good to know. Can you please just give the audience a brief or like a quick overview of these fees that they charge? Because I reviewed documents you submitted to the court, and I just thought that the number of fees and the charges, like connection fees, $25, fees for fees, $5. It was just an insane amount of money that is on stuff that absolutely doesn't look like serious charges.
Right. Well, the companies impose what they call ancillary fees, and there's a fee for everything. There's a fee to put money into an account. There's a fee to open an account. There's a fee to close the account. There's a fee to use the account. There's a fee if you don't use the account for a certain period of time. So they're charging every possible way. They also charge to make a deposit into the account through MoneyGram or some other service. If you want to send a $20 MoneyGram from one person to another, it may cost, I'm making this number up, $10 for the fee. But if you want to deposit to your prison account, they charge $15 and split the extra $5 between the prison phone company and Western Union. So they've got this wide array of fees for making collect calls and using your credit card and using a debit card and so forth. And so the FCC, in the rules that are now on appeal in the court, cracked down on these and eliminated all but one or two of the permissible charges for these ancillary fees.
Thank you so much. This has been very educative for us, and we learned a lot through the explanation you just provided us. This is definitely an issue that needs and requires more attention from the media and coverage from other outlets. Mr. Schwartzman, we thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you making yourself available today.
I'm happy to be able to talk about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.